Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by Sartor Hamann Jewelers. Check them out at sartorhamann.com. Also, carrikerchronicles.com. It's why your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fact of life. It's just science. All right, if you're ready for the long off season to be over, Nebraska football just finished their camp. Had their second big scrimmage, 110 plays. Their camp's over. It's not game week yet. Game week prep or Ohio State prep. Ohio prep starts on Thursday. But if you're ready for this long off season to be over and you're just ready for freaking game week and college football season, the official games to actually be here, smash the like button. Also, this last show, if you missed it, go back and check it out. I talked about the truth on how good Anthony Colandrea is with a question mark. Go back and check out that show if you missed it. Some of the topics that are rolling around in my head for future shows. Let me know in the comments. Do any of these topics interest you? Will Nebraska ever be back? Topic option number one. Does the Big Ten resent Nebraska? And the answer is yes, but I could do a show on it. Topic number two. Nebraska's new offensive approach. Okay, topic number three. I got some other topics as well. There'll be a Ohio prediction show coming. The Phil Steele interview is still going to come out either Wednesday or Friday. All right, if you don't want to miss anything we're doing here on the Carriker Chronicles, make sure you subscribe and double check to see if you have or not, because some people think they have and they haven't. So if you're so inclined, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Today's show, updates so far, inside intel that we know so far. All right, couple of things. I'm going to start. Well, Anthony Colandrea's been named the starting quarterback at Nebraska. No surprise, no shocker. It just became official on Saturday. But we're going to go position by position. And then we're going to go beyond the positions, and we're going to talk about some other things as the show goes along as well. I'm going to start with the backup quarterback. Then I'm going to jump to defense. Then I'll come back to offense, and then we'll proceed on beyond with some other information as well after that. Did you know that only twice since 2014 has the Nebraska quarterback started every game of the season? Now, I want Anthony Colandrea to start every game of this season, every game of next season, as long as he continues to earn the job. To be clear, it is football. Things happen. So when you look at the depth, because we're not only going to talk about starters in the show, we're going to talk about depth. Who are the 8 linemen that we think maybe the guys that Jeep Wade's thinking about? How deep are we on the D-line? Who are the starters? How deep are we at backer? What if somebody gets banged up? Guess what? Somebody will get banged up because it's football. So let's start with the backup quarterback position beyond Anthony Colandrea. Only twice since 2014 has a Nebraska quarterback started every game of the season. That was 2025, Dylan Raiola's true freshman season, and 2017, Tanner Lee. And Nebraska went 4-8 that year. That's not an important part here, but 9 of the last 11 seasons, the backup quarterback has had to start a game or multiple games. Right now, Danny Kaelin and TJ Lateef, Holgerson has spoke highly of the room as a whole. We may be the only quarterback room in the entire country with 3 guys with multiple Power 4 starting game type experience. I like the fact that the skill sets are fairly similar across the board. Now, each quarterback's going to have their own individual skill set that's a little different. But last year when TJ came in, when Dylan went down, the skill set was completely different. So then how you call plays in the middle of the game at home versus USC, when technically at the time, it might sound silly now, technically at the time you're fighting for a college football playoff spot or to be in that conversation. Remember, we're both, 6-2, something like that at that point in time. And so you're heading into November. Things go differently if you beat USC. But the offense doesn't have to change as much based on the quarterback that's in there. Now, Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes implicates, hey, your ability to throw the ball. Don't overlook his ability to run. Now, does TJ run a little bit more? Actually, TJ doesn't really want to run. Okay, if you watched him play last year, but he has the ability to run. And obviously, Anthony loves to run. Who's got the edge? It's neck and neck. Matt Rhule has said he's loved what he's seen from them. TJ Lateef has a slight edge right now. And again, there's more camp is over, but there's more time before they start to prep for Ohio. Game week isn't officially for another week. So there's a whole lot of practices still to go, evaluations still to be had. They don't seem in a rush to name a lot of starters. And I think it's because you got 3 games that are not preseason games. You cannot take them for granted. You cannot. Okay, remember, Ohio beat UNLV in the bowl game last year. When the Ohio prediction and preview show comes up, I'll talk a little bit more about how that might help Nebraska, how it might help Ohio, having faced Anthony Colandrea just in the bowl game not so long ago. you can't take anything for granted, but I think you can use 3 games to kind of figure out certain position battles and maybe start one guy one game and one guy another game and just see how it goes. But by the time you go to Michigan State, you need to have 90 to 95, if not 99.9% figured out. TJ Lateef, based on what I'm hearing, has a slight edge at this point in time in the backup quarterback battle. But man, I love Danny Dimes. Don't forget, 4-star recruit, highest rated recruit coming out of the state of Nebraska. The year he came out of high school, he loves Nebraska. So I'm a big fan of him there. So we'll see what happens there. Now I'm going to jump to the defensive side of the ball. And there are some bigger question marks as far as who I believe is going to start the linebacker spot and maybe the safety spot, than even the defensive line. Even though the defensive line as a whole, maybe has the most to prove coming into this season just because they're the least proven. Just because you haven't done it yet doesn't mean you can't do it. Just means you have to go out and do it and prove it. That's all. But the projected 4 starters are Cam Lenhart, Riley Van Poppel, Jasir Whittington, and Anthony Jones. Right? You look at that edge room, and I'll get to the D tackles here in a second. You feel really good about 4 guys in that room because you go beyond Cam Lenhart, you go beyond Anthony Jones. You got Williams Nwaneri, super talented. Now, in an interview that Nwaneri just did, he talked about how last year Rhule's apparently there were some fights in practice. He's like, you're fighting a lot because you're not good enough yet. And it's interesting because I know guys who are getting fights all the time who are plenty good at football players. They just love to fight or they had a mean streak or whatever. There's a couple players, especially on the offensive line, that pop into my head. I wonder why that is, who weren't that great. And the only way they could survive was by being flat out, they were trying to survive because they weren't good enough. Now, Nwaneri's talent level's through the roof. Nobody's questioning that. Okay. Just as far as the development and the refining of skills and understanding the game from a mental standpoint, that's the thing I want to see this year because his talent level is there. Nobody questions that. All right. But then you think about Cade Petschok, a true freshman who emerged at times, especially early on last year. What's his development look like this year? Feel good about the depth in that edge room is what I'm getting at. Now, they've talked about, they're not so much just looking at the amount of sacks. They're looking at collapsing the pocket, pressuring the quarterback, getting pressures on quarterbacks. And some people, that might not make sense to them. Like, I thought you wanted to get sacks. Well, you want to get sacks. Okay, we need to have more than 22 sacks, the 22 sacks we had last year, which was 98th in the country. You got to have more. Your leading sack master or sack guy needs to have more than 2.5 sacks, which was Nwaneri last year. We need to have more than that. But I've sat in a million D-line meetings where, and especially my coach in DC, he'd sit there and he goes, there's 60, 70 plays in a game. You get 3-4 sacks, that's phenomenal. What about the other 30 to 35 to 40 pass attempts in a game? Are you batting down balls? Are you knocking the quarterback down? Are you in his face? Are you hitting him? Are you pressuring him? Sacks matter a lot, the pressure rate. Sometimes it matters even more to coaches because if you sack him 3 or 4 times, but you're not hitting him the rest of the game, versus if he throws the ball 33 times a game and you hit him, which just over half of 33, 17, and you're pressuring him and then you sack him a couple of times. Now, the other thing is the play action pass. In the Big Ten, it's a lot of play action pass. It's power, it's counter, it's downhill type runs, depending on who you're playing. But the majority of the teams are going to be those type of run games, which sets up more of a pro style play action pass type offenses in the Big Ten. You want to be collapsing the pocket in order to defend the run and also pressure the quarterback on the play action pass. Because if you're just playing the run, you're not going to get any pressure on the quarterback. If you're just getting after the quarterback, you're going to leave gigantic running lanes. If you're collapsing everything, it's kind of something that's not too hard to understand. You're collapsing everything. It makes it harder to run. It makes it easier to get pressure on the quarterback on the play action pass. And play action passes can be hard to read sometimes for obvious reasons. The offense wants to make it hard to read. Our offense is no different. So you've got to be collapsing in order to be able to try to do both things at once while you're reading it on the way. The sooner you can read it, the better. You go beyond the top 4 guys at the edge room. You start to hear, Jordan Ochoa, originally a walk-on. I have a huge heart for walk-ons. All right, you start to hear. I'm curious to see where Willis McGahee emerges at some point. I know he's super fast, super athletic, could have transferred, chose to stay, but you hear Mark Way. Maybe there's 5 or 6 guys they feel decent about, 4 they feel really good about. You start going past 4, it's hard to build that kind of depth. All right, defensive tackle spot, Riley Van Poppel. This is a dude who just needs to take the appropriate steps. He's got the size, the ability. He looks bigger. He looks like he looks ready to go this year. How does it look as far as the progression? Kind of like Williams Nwaneri. Now, Van Poppel's going to start, but as far as the progression and the development of understanding the game, reading, reacting to blocks. Corey Brown, the defensive line coach, spoke my language the other day. He wants heavy hands. You want to be able to read blocks. The faster you can read blocks, the faster you can play. You've heard of guys who play faster than they are. It's because they see things before they happen, or they read them quicker than other guys who may be faster than them but play slower because they're not seeing the game as quickly. So I'm curious to see how that development is for Riley Van Poppel. Owen Stodmeyer, I'm sorry, I'm going to get to Owen in a second, but Jasir Whittington, 6 foot 275. He has one career start. He's a dude with an explosive first step. He's a good dude with great strike in his hands. He plays heavier than he is. Okay. Oddly enough, the 4 guys starting, you look at Anthony Jones, you look at Van Poppel, you look at Cam Lenhart. Jasir has the least amount of starting experience. He started 1 game in his career, and he's also the lightest. So how does that play out over the long course of a season? He also may have the highest upside. Before we get into the depth of D-tackle spot, I want to give a shout out to some of our partners, our sponsors here on the Carriker Chronicles. Again, Sartor Hamann Jewelers has been a great new partner, new sponsor on this show. They do a phenomenal job. Premium diamonds you can see from across the room. You can get ready for the season with their Husker jewelry collection, including their fan favorite SH exclusive corn cob earrings and pendant. By the way, they sell out of these every year, so make sure you get one if you want one as soon as you can before they are gone and out the door. They can help you celebrate important milestones from engagements to 50-year anniversaries. I mentioned it's going to be my wife and I's 20-year anniversary in December and everything in between. Ladies and gentlemen, when only the best will do, think Sartor Hamann. 3 convenient locations in Lincoln, Grand Island, and online 24/7 at sartorhamann.com. Also, shout out to our good long-term partners and friends at 626 Auto here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And nobody does it better than them. They do a phenomenal job as well. You can check them out at 626autoservice.com. Again, over 20 years, over 2 decades, locally owned and operated here in Lincoln, Nebraska, 2405 P Street. Okay. You can check them out at 626autoservice.com. If and when you go in, hopefully you go in, I would highly recommend it, obviously. Ask for Dean Phelps. He's the owner. Great dude, very knowledgeable, genuinely cares about his customers and wants to do a great job for them. Or you can ask for Eric. Either one. Ask for either one of them. Tell them that Adam sent you. Again, 626 Auto Service in Lincoln. Check them out at 626autoservice.com. All right, getting back to some of these, just to the D-tackle spot here. So you look at Riley Van Poppel, you look at Jasir Whittington. Now, Owen Stodmeyer, the senior transfer from Boston College, you want him to add great depth, be someone who can contribute, someone who can compete, and hopefully help you as the season goes along. Now, beyond those 3 guys, you really want, ideally, 5 D-tackles in the Big Ten that you trust. You got to have at least 4. You got to have at least 4. You can get away with 4 edge rushers that you trust, but on that interior, man, it's banging and it's clanging, and you got to bring your big boy pads. These are all, by the way, fancy terms, banging and clanging, that I've heard in about 1 million defensive meetings. I'll never forget one year we were going to play the Giants, and it was the year they ended up winning the Super Bowl. It was my rookie year. And the D coordinator walks in the room and goes, "You better bring your big boy pads today." And that's because they ran power all day, every day. Led them to a Super Bowl, so it worked out all right for them. Their running back was, I swear to God, Jacobs was about 260 pounds, and I think that's pretty accurate. Anyways, I digress. Who can add some more depth beyond Owen Stodmeyer? Sula Fotu's a guy to watch. Just been banged up, had a history of injuries. If he can stay healthy, he's a guy to watch. Tyson Terry's a guy I have loved, and Matt Rhule mentioned him in a press conference last year. He won a frickin' state wrestling championship with a torn frickin' ACL. All right. If you're a fan of Kurt Angle, pro wrestler, he legit won an Olympic gold medal in 1996. He would say with a broken frickin' neck. That's kind of where I just got that from, by the way. Other guys to keep your eye on. Malcolm Simpson hasn't been talked about a lot. Young freshman, but he was a top 100 recruit in the country, top 10 defensive tackle in the country, a 4-star. Now, we've heard almost nil about him. But I wonder if he's a guy, maybe the second half of the season, maybe the last month of the season, you start to see him in certain situations. I didn't do about jack squat my redshirt freshman year. I did have an ankle injury until I got put in nickel situations the last month of the year. And that's when I started to contribute a little bit. Dylan Berryman, I mean, he's a 350-pound true freshman. Can he contribute on rundowns or not? Is he ready for that? I don't know. We need big bodies. We need guys who can contribute on rundowns. I've not heard anything specific on him. David Hopkins, a guy who's flashed at times as well. All right, you go to the linebacker spot. Everybody expects Owen Chambliss to start and maybe be one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten. If you're one of the best linebackers in the Big Ten, you're one of the best linebackers probably in the country. He led, all right, San Diego State last year with 109 tackles. Really, the question is who's going to start next to him? It's tough because Vincent Shavers led our linebackers last year, and he's back. Trimmed down a little bit, looking pretty good, looking as good as he's ever looked. You look at a guy like Dexter Foster, who's back, and looks like an NFL body. The athleticism might even be there to even more of a degree, which is crazy to say when you're comparing him to Vincent. Maybe a little bit higher ceiling. He's a guy who was injured after game 7 last year, but still led Oregon State in solo tackles. So it's neck and neck. And this may be me putting the cart before the horse, but my gut tells me that Dexter Foster has the slightest of edges. But I wonder if it's a situation where maybe Foster starts one game, Shavers another, while they're figuring out things during those 3 non-conference games. My gut says Dexter Foster at this point in time. And then Dawson Merritt, those are kind of the top 4 linebackers. There's a little bit of separation. Those top 4, and then who else can get in that mix? Will Hawthorne's an insane athlete. So Pierce Newberry is a guy to keep your eye on. Christian Jones won the Butkus Award, redshirt freshman, won the Butkus Award for the top linebacker in the entire country coming out of high school, out of Omaha. So keep your eye on who emerges out of those young, talented, athletic linebackers. Will Hawthorne, Pierce Newberry, Christian Jones, a lot of talent in there. You move on to the secondary. You feel pretty solid about 3 of the starters. You feel pretty solid about Andrew Marshall. You feel pretty at corner, one of the corner spots, Jameer Khan, at one of the safety spots, Donovan Jones at the nickel spot. Those 3 you feel pretty solid about. You go to the other corner spot. Victor Evans is a guy that you hear a lot about. Jeremiah Charles and Danny Odom kind of seems to be between those 3. Danny Odom has, dare I say, the highest upside, although Victor Evans is one of the fastest guys on the team. Okay, so he's one of the fastest guys on the team. Jeremiah Charles, one of the most athletic guys on the team. This is a dude who did long jump for the Nebraska track team a couple off seasons ago. He won the first ever slam dunk competition that the University of Nebraska put on for the football team 2 Januaries ago. The second guy to win it was Henry McCarberg, by the way. So the dude can jump. He's got explosiveness. He's got athleticism. He's one of those guys that Rhule brought on and his staff brought on because of his insane athleticism. That got him on the team. And then that's what Rhule likes. He likes big guys. He likes fast guys, maybe guys under the radar, and then you develop them. Diamonds in the rough. He's the guy to definitely keep your eye on. Him and Victor, those are probably the 2 lead guys, but Danny Odom, maybe even the highest ceiling, one of the highest rated corners in the entire country, a 5-star. This is a dude who's probably going to make bigger incremental jumps and levels of improvement throughout the season, even than Charles. Charles is a junior. All right. You look at, let me see here. Victor's a senior, so they're going to get better, but where Danny's a true freshman, he may make bigger jumps throughout the year. Maybe he doesn't start at the beginning of the year, but maybe he starts to contribute more, whether he's starting or not, or maybe he starts at some point during the second half of the year. It seems like going into it. All right. Victor is 6'1", one of the fastest guys on the team. He seems to have the edge at that corner spot. Jeremiah Charles is in the mix. The safety spot is interesting. The other safety spot opposite Jameer Khan is maybe the most challenging one to predict at this point in time. You got multiple guys who are in that conversation. Dwayne McDougal was kind of the guy that was slotted in, transfers over from San Diego State. He's a Rob Orridge guy. He knows the defense. He's a senior. You've got other guys, though. Rex Guthrie, a guy who's very, very smart. Now, this was an interesting thing that Tim Verghese pointed out to me on my show on 93.7 The Ticket. He caught a little bit extra flack last year, maybe a little bit unfairly at times, but he's very smart. He understands the game. But he probably needs to be on the field and surrounded with good athletes because you try to pair guys. You try to put guys that are on the field that are individually really good, but sometimes you try to pair guys that complement each other. Like I'll tell you right now, from a defensive line perspective, the last thing a defensive line coach is going to do is put like 2 very young, inexperienced defensive ends on the field together that haven't earned his trust yet. Because even though they might get the sack, they also might both lose contain. They also both might bust. But if you have an experienced end and then a really fast, young, explosive end, you know you can trust one even if the other one messes up. And even though the more experienced guy in this scenario may not have quite the explosiveness, the other guy does. So they complement each other well. You maybe don't want to have 2 guys who are really experienced but not explosive if you can go 1-on-1, or 2 really explosive guys that are likely to mentally bust until they get more reps in. It's sometimes when you're trying to figure things out and you don't have clear-cut starters or you're trying to build depth, it's who do you put in as a tandem? And this is what I spoke with Verghese about. It's almost like Rex Guthrie and Caleb Benning might be a good tandem together, because Caleb's young guy, freshman, really athletic. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of physical ability, and his mental understanding of the game isn't lacking. He's just young and learning. You pair him with a guy like Guthrie, who needs to be on the field with maybe a little bit better athletes. That could be a good pairing as they're trying to figure out this starting safety role. Dwayne McDougal's obviously a guy who's going to be in the conversation. I'm curious, Justin Rhett, the Georgia transfer, has flown under the radar quite a bit. My gut almost tells me, and this is the hardest one to predict out of all the position battles for me, my gut almost tells me this could be a situation where we see different starters each of those first 3 non-conference games. Maybe like the linebacker spot, maybe like the running back position, which I've mentioned earlier. Isaiah Mozee, Mekhi, maybe Jamal starts a different one each of those first 3 non-conference games until we head to Michigan State, and you got to be hitting the ground running there. So maybe Dwayne, because he's going to have an understanding of the defense. He's not going to give up the big play in the first game of the year when things are the most unpredictable. He's a senior. Maybe he starts and you rotate in a Benning, you rotate in a Guthrie, you rotate in some of these other guys. Maybe you pair certain guys on the field together that complement each other until you figure out who has individually separated themselves on the depth chart. My gut says at some point, Caleb Benning is probably going to end up being the starter. That could be game 1. That could be game 3. That could be game 5. It's just at some point, I feel like that's my prediction. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'll say it again, all the position battles, it's the hardest one to predict as we get ready for game week next week. I think I covered the whole entire defense there. I covered the quarterback on offense. The good old running back position, I've talked about it a lot. So I'm going to keep it quick because I've talked about it a lot. To me, there's a separation with 3 guys. Now, Quentin Ives is a guy who can contribute short yardage, goal line. He continues to just get better and better. Don't forget about a young guy who put up video game numbers at Wahoo in high school, and Connor Booth. But as far as starting early on in the season, it's probably Isaiah, it's probably Mekhi. And then Sipple has convinced me that about halfway through the year, Jamal Rhule might take over. Game 5, game 6, whatever the case may be. Not take over as in all the snaps, but maybe become the starter. Maybe the most well-rounded potential as far as a back who can do a little bit of everything. Not that, Isaiah's hitting it in between the tackles really well. And he's starting to pick up a lot of steam from the insiders that I'm hearing about. Like, he very well might become the starter. I've always just thought Mekhi just initially. But maybe Mekhi starts game 1, Isaiah game 2, Rhule game 3. I don't know. I'm still going to give the slight edge to Mekhi, but man, Mozee is just picking up steam. Former 4-star wide receiver recruit. They moved to running back. Obviously can catch, can make plays outside. It was always the inside. Always, how do you run in between the tackles? How do you run in between the A gap, the B gap, the C gap? If there's a tight end, like, it's a whole different world in there. And he's just getting better and better and better. My gut says, this is game 1 projections. My gut says Mekhi by a smidge. Isaiah might get it. It would not shock me at all if there's different starters, specifically at the running back position and the safety position, each of those first 3 games. All right. Another shout out to a couple of partners. And there's 2 positions I haven't covered, and then special teams. And the most intriguing story of the entire camp may be Gunnar Gottula and his emergence in this competition at right tackle battle, the coming back from injury, the Lincoln kid. I'm going to get to that in a second. All right. Shout out to Square Up as well. Attention coaches, booster clubs, and youth sports organizations. If you're looking for an easier way to raise money, check out Square Up. Their QR code's right on the screen. It's there on the screen all show, every show. Go ahead and scan that if you're so inclined. I would recommend it. All right. With Square Up, you can run football squares or basketball squares for fundraising campaigns where supporters not only help your organization, they also have the chance to win cash or prizes, whether it's $5 squares, $20 squares, or even $100 squares. You decide how it works and how much your organization can raise. It's simple to manage, fun for everyone, and trusted by premier youth sports programs. Visit GetSquareUp.com. That's on our screen as well. GetSquareUp.com and start raising more money today. If you scan the QR code, all right, or go to GetSquareUp.com, you can try it for free and win a $25 Amazon e-card for each quarter and final if you scan the code and use Square Up today. Remember, if you don't play, you can't win. Shout out to Husker Auto Group as well. They have up to $12,000 off of select new 2026 Silverados and 2026 Sierras in stock available for immediate delivery. Fresh arrivals daily of 2026 Chevy Suburbans, Tahoes, and 2026 GMC Yukons. Over 300 pre-owned units to choose from. Check them out at HuskerAutoGroup.com. Again, that's HuskerAutoGroup.com. It's where I buy my vehicles, my wife's vehicles. We have a kid who's driving, bought his vehicle there. We have another kid who's going to be driving soon, going to buy her vehicle there. Again, HuskerAutoGroup.com. Let's go to the offensive line. Things seem fairly settled. Elijah Pritchett, the left tackle. Justin Evans, center. You got your guards, Brendan Black, Paul Mubenga, the right tackle spot. Tree Babalade is a guy that talent's through the roof, hadn't yet found consistency at South Carolina this whole offseason. You know, where was he going to be weight-wise? He went from 358 before the spring game to 340 reportedly. So the weight's at an appropriate level. He's an athlete. He can move at that size, and that's all you really care about. Okay, are you strong? Can you move? It's an athletic offensive line as a whole. Gunnar Gottula is a guy who was thrust into action really early as a freshman due to injury. Probably to his own detriment, because he might not have been ready. And that's not his fault. And then he played a lot last year. This is a dude who's played over 850 snaps, started 16 games here at the University of Nebraska. One of the most experienced offensive linemen we have. I've said he's a Sunday player. Okay, how is the development, like physically, the potential, the ceiling, and all? How is it going to develop? How is he going to develop over time? He's the guy who's battled injuries. I believe he's missed a couple of spring balls due to injuries. Tree Babalade's been banged up a little bit. This can't. Had the yellow jersey on at times. Gunnar has made strides. Either guy could win this job. Right now, I'm going to give the slight edge to Gunnar. Either way, you got depth at tackle. You got three guys who can start a tackle that you trust. You go beyond that because Cheap Wade has said he wants 8 guys. Every offensive line coach, I don't have a whole lot of experience sitting in offensive line rooms. I was a quarterback all the way through high school. Then I went to the dark side, the good side of the ball, the defensive line. So I've not been in a lot of O-line rooms, but I've heard a million offensive line coaches say, I'm rounding down there. Every offensive line coach I've ever heard says they want 8 guys. That always seems to be the number. It's kind of like basketball. You know, high school, youth sports, basketball, you want 8 guys. Well, we seem to know who 6 of them are. All right, and then you look at Gibson Pyle, a guy who's kind of flown under the radar, who's caught in some traction during camp. This has even been mentioned in press conferences by Coach Wade. 6'5", 310-pound sophomore. People forget he was an All-American out of high school. Went and played the 2024 All-American game. I don't know why. He kind of reminds me of Grant Seagren, whom Rhule talked about 2 springs ago in a press conference. Now, Grant went to Oklahoma State, played in all 12 games, had 403 pass attempts and allowed 0 sacks and one of the highest grade tackles in the entire country. Now he's at Northwestern. You know, he just reminds me of that, even though their journeys are a little bit different. If I recall, I think Grant was a walk-on. I could be wrong. But Gibson is just, he was hurt last year, so his season got cut short. In camp, he's kind of flown under the radar, but just one of these guys that plays really, really well. So if he's the 7th player, the question is, who's that 8th offensive lineman? Is it Sam Sledge? Is it Tyler Kanak? Where's Grant Bricks? Where's Preston Tamur? These highly touted 4-star guys. You know, how's their development coming along? That's really the question, is who are the last couple of offensive linemen to round out the depth on the O-line here? Okay. My Phil Steele interview, check that out. It's coming out Wednesday or Friday. You go to special teams. Kyle Cunnan's our kicker. Archie Wilson's our punter. Ja'Cory Barner's already been named the punt returner. I don't know if a kick returner has been named. Maybe it's Ja'Cory. Maybe it's someone else. But he has Nebraska special teams as a number 22 ranked special teams in the country coming into the season. They finished number 28 last year. And the last time they were a top 25 special teams unit in the country before last year was 2014. In 2024, Nebraska's special teams before Eckler got here, before last year, was 125th in the country. Now, as a team as a whole, Nebraska has brought in 53 FBS starts and 56 FCS starts as a whole to this team as a whole. And a lot of people are starting to think that the FCS starters maybe assimilate a little bit better than a 4 or 5 star who didn't work out one spot, goes to another. Not that they can't work out, but sometimes the FCS guys with the proven production tend to work out a little bit better sometimes. Okay. Not every single case. Now, Nebraska also has 21 players that have been with Rhule at Nebraska for at least 3 years now. I will say this, Orich, Rhule have talked about they're impressed with the improvement of the defensive line, especially the progress of the D tackles, which is what Rob Orich said. I hear my questions for you fine folks at home. Let me know your answer in the comments below. You can follow me on the social medias, X, TikTok, and Facebook. What's the one team in college football you want to see fall off more than anyone else? We're having fun here. What's the one game on Nebraska's schedule that's overlooked the most? And what would you be willing to do if someone would guarantee you Nebraska would win a national championship? What body part would you be willing to lose? An arm, a leg? That's a question I saw on another podcast, so have fun with that too. Go Big Red Nose. Remember to throw the bomb.